Mama had been sick for some weeks, and the house had been quiet. I came from Lagos to see her, and when I entered the sitting room, she was sitting on her old chair near the window, her wrapper tied loosely around her waist. Her breathing was slow, and her eyes looked tired but gentle. She smiled when she saw me. "Ngozi, my daughter, you came," she said. "Yes, Mama. I couldn't stay in Lagos when I heard you were not feeling fine." Chidi and Kenny were already around. Chidi sat with his phone, pressing it as if the world would end if he stopped. Keen was outside washing the car that hadn't moved for weeks. It was strange, all of us being together again under the same roof. The house felt full but heavy, like the walls knew something we didn't. That evening, Mama called us all into the sitting room. The light was dim, and the kerosene lamp on the center table made the walls glow yellow. She coughed for a while before she spoke. "My children," she began softly, "I have only one thing to say. This house, please don't fight over it when I'm gone." "Mama, stop talking like that," I said quickly, my throat tight, but she waved her hand slowly. "Let me talk. I've seen how families scatter after their mother dies. Promise me, this house must remain in peace." Chidi cleared his throat. "Mama, nothing will happen. We are one family." Kane nodded, though I noticed he was blinking fast like he didn't want to cry. I held Mama's hand and said, "I promise, Mama, we won't fight." She smiled faintly. "You people are my joy. Even when I'm gone, I'll be happy knowing you all still love one another." That night, I slept in my old room, but I couldn't rest. I kept hearing her weak voice in my head. "Don't fight over the house." 2 weeks later, she died. It happened early in the morning. The neighbor, Auntie Obi, called me from the backyard. "Ngozi, your mama no day answer me, oh." I ran inside and saw her still on the bed, eyes closed, her face calm. I screamed till my brothers rushed in. The burial came fast. The compound was full of people, women cooking, men sitting under canopies, talking in low tones. Chidi took charge of everything. He said as the first son, it was his duty. I didn't argue, I just wanted to give Mama a good rest. But even during the burial, I felt it, something cold between us. Chidi was snapping at Kene, saying he wasn't helping enough. Kane shouted back that Chidi was acting like the only child. I tried to keep peace, but I could feel Mama's last wish already shaking. When the crowd left and the compound grew quiet again, I sat on the veranda, staring at the door. The house smelled like Mama, her perfume, her old powder, her life. I touched the wall and whispered, "Don't worry, Mama, I'll protect this house." I didn't know that 2 months later, that same house would tear us apart. 2 months after Mama's burial, life started to move on, or at least it looked that way. I had returned to Lagos to continue work at the hospital, but at every night before sleeping, I still imagined her voice calling me from the backyard. Sometimes I even dialed her number by mistake. Chidi stayed back in Enugu, saying he wanted to keep an eye on the house. I didn't question him much because, truly, someone needed to be there. Kene went back to Nsukka, where he was looking for a teaching job. We spoke once in a while, mostly to check on one another. But one evening I got a strange call from Kene. His voice was shaking. "Ngozi, have you heard what's happening?" I sat up on my bed. "What is it?" "I just came back from Enugu. I saw people measuring Mama's land. They said they're from one property company. Chidi didn't tell you?" My heart jumped. "No, he didn't tell me anything. Maybe he just wants to renovate." "Renovate what?" Kenny snapped. "Ngozi, I'm telling you, those men were marking boundaries. Even the neighbors are saying he wants to sell." I didn't sleep that night. I called Chidi several times, but he didn't pick up. The next day, he finally answered, sounding tired and cold. "Chidi, what's going on in Mama's house?" I asked. "Nothing serious, just some agents I'm talking to. You won't understand, Ngozi. Things are hard. I'm trying to handle something." "Handle what? That house belongs to all of us." He hissed. "Ngozi, calm down. I'm the first son. I know what I'm doing." I felt a wave of anger rush through me. "Mama begged us, Chidi. She said we shouldn't fight or sell that house." "Look, I don't have time for drama," he said and ended the call. I sat there shaking. I didn't know if to cry or scream. I called Ken again and we decided to travel to Enugu that weekend. When we arrived, we met a new lock on the gate. The old chairs in the sitting room were gone. The smell of Mama's perfume had disappeared. In its place, the air felt dry and strange. Keen started shouting from outside, calling Chidi's name. He didn't come out at first, but after a few minutes, he walked in from the back, holding a bunch of papers. "What's all this noise?" he asked. "Where's Mama's furniture? Why is there a lock here?" I demanded. Chidi looked away, then said quietly, "It's done. I sold the house." The words hit me like a blow. "You did what?" Keeney rushed at him, but I held him back. I couldn't even find my voice anymore. My ears were ringing. "For what reason?" I finally asked, my voice shaking. Chidi's eyes looked tired. "Debts. I needed to clear some debts. It's still for the family." "Family?" Keeney shouted. "You sold our mother's house without telling us." I felt tears burning my eyes. All I could hear in my head was Mama's voice that night before she died. "Promise me, don't fight over this house." But it was too late. The promise had already been broken. I couldn't eat that day. I couldn't even think straight. Keen was pacing up and down the compound like a man who had lost his mind. Chidi sat quietly on the veranda, staring at the ground. The silence between us was loud. The air felt heavy, like even the house itself was angry. "Chidi, how could you do this?" I finally asked, my voice trembling. He didn't look at me. "Ngozi, you won't understand. I had to. My business failed. I owed people. They were threatening me. I needed money fast." "So you sold Mama's house without telling us?" He sighed and rubbed his face. "I'm the first son. The house is my responsibility." I shook my head slowly. "No, Chidi. It was Mama's house. It belonged to all of us. She begged us not to fight. She begged us." Keeney couldn't hold himself anymore. He shouted, "You're wicked! You're not even sorry!" Then he rushed at Chidi and grabbed his shirt. I ran to pull him away, crying and shouting for them to stop. They almost fought right there in front of Mama's house. The neighbours started gathering outside the gate, whispering. Some were shaking their heads. I could hear one woman say, Mama Uzumaka warned them, oh." She warned them. Chidi finally pushed Kenny away and walked inside, slamming the door. Kenny was breathing hard, his eyes red. "Ngozi, I'm going to the police," he said. "He must return that money or they'll arrest him." "Wait," I said weakly. "Let's talk to him again tomorrow." But the next day Chidi was gone. The house was locked. When we asked the neighbour, she said some men came early that morning, took the rest of the furniture and left. I felt something break inside me. That week I went back to Lagos, but my heart stayed in Enugu. I couldn't focus at work. I kept thinking about Mama's grave, about the promise we made, about Chidi's tired eyes. Kene kept calling, angry and bitter. "Ngozi, he's hiding. I'll find him. He'll regret this." Then the news spread. People were talking about us. Mama Uzo Amaka's children that sold their mother's house and started fighting. Even my colleagues at the hospital whispered when I passed. I felt ashamed, like the whole world knew our secret. 2 weeks later, Kene told me he'd found a lawyer. He said Chidi used fake documents and forged our signatures to complete the sale. I didn't want to go to court, but I knew there was no other way. The buyer had already started cleaning the compound and planning to build something new there. When I saw a photo Kenny sent me, the buyer's workers pulling down Mama's old veranda roof, I burst into tears. I couldn't breathe. That was where Mama used to sit every morning, drinking her tea and humming hymns. I called Chidi that night. He didn't pick up. I sent him a message. "You've broken Mama's last wish. I hope you can sleep at night." For the first time in my life, I wished Mama wasn't in the ground. I wish she could wake up and knock sense into us all. The house she built with love had become the reason we were destroying each other. The first day we went to court, I couldn't stop shaking. I had never been inside a courtroom before. The air was cold, and everything felt too quiet, like the walls were listening. Kenny sat beside me, his hands folded tight, while Chidi sat on the other side, alone, looking tired and smaller than I remembered. When the judge walked in, my heart started beating fast. Our lawyer stood and explained how Chidi sold Mama's house without telling us, how he forged our signatures, and how the buyer had already started work on the property. The buyer's lawyer stood up too, saying Chidi showed proof of ownership and that the sale was legal. When they called Chidi to speak, he stood slowly. His voice was weak. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I only wanted to pay off my debts. I thought I could buy the house back later when I got money." Kene jumped up from his seat. "You thought? Mama's memory wasn't something to experiment with." The judge warned him to sit down. I held Keen's hand until he calmed down, but tears were already rolling down my cheeks. I remembered Mama's voice that night, her eyes begging us not to fight. I felt her disappointment like fire burning in my chest. After the hearing, the judge said they would stop the buyer from taking full ownership until the case was settled. It was a small relief, but I could see the shame on Chidi's face. When we walked out, a small crowd was waiting. Some of them were people from our village who had come to see the drama. Chidi avoided their eyes and walked straight to his car, but before he could open the door, he staggered. His hand trembled and then he fell. People screamed. I rushed to him. "Chidi! Chidi, can you hear me?" His eyes rolled back and for a moment I thought he was gone. Kene helped me lift him while someone called for help. We rushed him to the hospital. The doctor said it was stress, exhaustion, and high blood pressure. For 2 days, Chidi didn't talk much. He just stared at the ceiling, quiet. On the third day, when I came to see him, he turned his head slowly toward me. His eyes were red. "Ngozi," he whispered. "She doesn't leave me alone." "Who?" I asked. "Mama," he said weakly. "Every night I see her sitting on that veranda, calling my name. She asks me why I broke her last wish. I can't sleep." My heart softened. For the first time since all this started, I saw my brother as a broken man, not the proud first son. I sat beside him, holding his hand. Keen walked in, still angry but quieter. Chidi looked at him and said, "Kine, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I've lost everything. The money is gone. I just want peace." No one spoke for a long time. We just sat there, 3 of us, broken, with the sound of Mama's memory hanging heavy in the room. It was then I knew, no matter who won in court, we had already lost something we could never get back. When Chidi was discharged from the hospital, he moved in with a friend for a while. He looked older, thinner, like someone who had seen too much. The court case was still on, but none of us had the strength to keep fighting. I was tired of hearing lawyers talk about signatures and ownership papers. Keen wanted to continue, but I told him one evening, "Keen, if we keep dragging this, we'll lose ourselves completely." He looked at me quietly. "So what do we do? Let him go free?" I sighed. "Let's find peace first, then we can decide what next." After many nights of thinking, I went to see the buyer of the house. He was a middle-aged man named Mr. Okeke, a calm man with kind eyes. I told him everything, how Mama warned us, how we fought and how the family scattered. When I finished, he stayed silent for a while, then said, "I didn't know it was like this. Your brother told me he was the only child." He thought for a long time and then said, "I can sell the house back to you, not for the full price, just enough to cover what I spent." I almost cried right there in his office. I promised him we'd find the money. That night I called Kane and told him. He was shocked. "Ngozi, how will we pay?" "I'll use my savings. You can add whatever you have, and Chidi, maybe he'll help." We met Chidi the next day. He didn't argue. He said, "Whatever I can do, I'll do it. I want to make things right." It took some months. I sent most of my salary, Kine worked 2 jobs, and Chidi sold his car. Finally, Mr. Okeke handed the papers back to us. When I held them, I felt like I was holding Mama's hand again. The 3 of us went back to the house together. The compound was dusty and quiet, but still standing. We cleaned it, swept the veranda and washed the windows. Everything smelled new again, yet familiar. When the sun started to set, we planted a small hibiscus tree near the front door, the kind Mama used to love. Chidi dug the hole himself, sweating but smiling weakly. Kaney poured water over the soil and I whispered, "For Mama." We stood there watching the small plant sway gently in the breeze. No one spoke. We didn't need to. The silence was peaceful this time, not heavy. That evening, as we locked the gate and walked away, I felt something lift off my chest. The house was back where it belonged, and maybe, just maybe, Mama's spirit could rest. We had broken her last wish, but in the end we found our way back to it. And that, I knew, was her true blessing.